Hello, it is Leahy, and I am going to do my Overwatch League 2021 season rankings. I'm gonna do them separate because I see a lot of people doing them all together, and with APAC and NA, it just does not make sense because they're so different in how they're gonna go throughout the season and how good the teams are in each. So we're gonna go ahead and just go through each team. We're gonna do some of them really quick. Right away, I'm gonna go ahead and start with NA. We're gonna go top to bottom, kind of bounce around. It's not gonna be the cleanest thing. I'm gonna try to keep this video to about a half hour. Hopefully it's only that long. My goodness. All right. So to keep in mind for some context, this is how I view the teams right now. Okay. A lot of tier lists and rankings for the season are based. They're projecting to what will happen at the end of the season. Well, I mean, if 2020 is any indication, and if 2019 or 2018 the Overwatch League is any indication, the way teams finish is so night and day different. Now, this is going to be the most stable year the league's ever had. It's the fourth season. Every team has gotten better in the offseason except for the LA Valiant. They're the only team that hasn't. But literally every other team has gotten better. So it's going to be the closest I think the league has ever been. And I also think it's going to be pretty messy. But I'm going to try to differentiate it and give you as much reasoning as possible. Again, I'm like not an Overwatch personality or analyst or pro or anything. On a good day, I'm a gold player, but I do pay attention to the league. I watch every match. I watch most of the podcasts, read all the tweets from the teams, follow up with all the picks, all the offseason stuff. So I'm pretty well versed on this stuff. But still take my opinions with a grain of salt. It is just an opinion after all. And I am ever so slightly biased. I am a big Houston fan. I'm a huge Shanghai fan as well. And I also like Hangzhou and Florida quite a bit. I like Florida a lot, actually. So let's go ahead and start there, actually. Let's start at the top of NA. These are just in alphabetical order, by the way, on the screen. Don't pay attention to any of that yet. So the Shock are hands down the best team in NA. And I think that Shanghai is better. We'll talk about this more when we talk about like championship contenders. But until San Francisco Shock gets taken down, I mean they're just the kings. And they made some decent offseason additions. They got Glister and Nero, two insane DPS players, but they did lose Ans, who was an incredible rookie, the best hit scan in the league, hands down last year. Some people debate that, but it's not even a thing. Ans was an absolute menace in the server. Like, the dude is an absolute assassin. Like, he's just insane. But he retired. He's now playing Valorant, which, good on him. All the best to him. I'm going to miss him a lot. He was literally, like, my favorite player to watch. So, but they are just hands down the best. Let me just go to their page here. Yeah, I mean the amount of flexibility they have. I mean, they did lose Moth, who is regarded as the best support player, the best main support player in the world. I mean, easily regarded as that. I mean, there's a few people like LeahyGaga's and FD here who are like so close. They're right up there. But FD and LeahyGaga's just, I think they're going to come into their own this season. They were already the 2 and 3 best main supports, but I don't know. Until someone is just better than Moth. I mean, Moth has won 2 championships in a row. I mean, he's just been absolutely automatic. So, but they did get FD, who they basically replaced Moth. I mean, it's one of the best pickups of the year for anyone. They have incredible flexible DPS. We'll see how good their hit scan is. I think that might hurt them as the season goes on. But we'll see, because you never know who will step up and just be insane. They have Violet, who is the best flex support in the world. That's not even questionable. Like, everyone knows that he is. He's arguably the best player in the league. He's an absolute freak of nature. He's also an assassin. Super is the best Reinhardt in the world. I think that's my opinion. The guy's just his leadership in the server is almost unmatched by anyone I can think of. I mean, there's other examples for other teams, but the way Super is as a teammate and as a leader, he even when he's on the bench a lot during certain metas, he's a freak. And then they have one of the best flex supports on their bench as well in Twilight. So they're ready for any meta. The San Francisco Shock, I think, are the most flexible team next to the Shanghai Dragons. But we're going to move on from them, and they're at the top of the list. Next is going to be the LA Gladiators. Now, I have a tier break because I think that San Francisco just can't be touched, at least in NA. But the Gladiators are amazing. They picked up Moth. They picked up OG, who he's struggled as a main tank in the past in the league. But I think he's going to find some footing because Space, the off tank for the Gladiators, is an absolute freak of nature. He's so underrated. Everyone always only thinks about the Korean off tanks, and no one talks about Space. I underrated Space for a really long time, and over this offseason, I've really paid attention to him and what he's been capable of. And I think just the LA Gladiators last year, the communication, the way the team was working, it was just wasn't a good fit, and they've gotten rid of a lot of those bad pieces. So they're absolutely the number 2. I mean, that's pretty widely accepted. So we're going to move on from them as well. Well, let's just quick look at their lineup. Yeah, I mean they're really prepared support wise especially for a double flex meta. They only have 2 tanks, but I think they're going to be okay. I think they're going to be okay. Oh no, they have more than one tank. Yeah. They got OG and Muse. Yeah, I wonder why he's not listed in the active roster. That's so weird. Oh no, OG went to Mayhem. That's right. I was in Mayhem mode because they're about to be the next team. All right, so Mayhem, where are you at, boys? Yeah, Florida Mayhem are my number 3. I'm very high on them. Yeah, I totally forgot about Muse on LA. Whoopsies. Because OG was on LA. That's why I mixed that up. Okay, so Mayhem have what I would consider the most underrated flex support in the league in Gangnam Jin. And he's just an absolute freak of nature. Like, that guy's nuts on Ana. He might be like my favorite Ana in the league. Their DPS, BQB, and let's just bring up their lineup. So I'm remembering names correctly. Okay, active roster. There we go. So their off-tank Gargoyle is really solid. They have an incredibly good backline in Gangnam Jin and Slime, who is an upgrade from last year. Just slightly better than was it Chris? Was there other support in Byram? They just never I don't know. They just never did it. They weren't special at all. Chris was okay, but Slime is very good. I think OG's gonna have a good year here. The coach for Florida has worked with OG before, and so has a few others in the organization. So should be a pretty smooth transition. Yaki, BQB, and Checkmate is solid DPS. I mean, Yaki can play everything. That guy's one of the most flexible guys in the league. He's very good. Whether he'll be good on everything and every meta is another thing. BQB is definitely the hit scan guy. He played the Ashe a lot. He helped revolutionize Ashe a lot with the guys in LA Valiant last year. I mean, when we had that double shield meta, and Ashe really got her playing time in the league for the first time, which is great to see because she's an awesome character and deserves time in the sun. I'm just high on this team. I mean, they shored up a few things that they were missing last year, and they were just always in the semifinals. They were just chomping at the bit, and just call me a simp, but I just love Florida. Florida Mayhem is just a great squad, so that's why they're my number 2. Then we're gonna do another tier break because it starts to get really messy. And when I go to when I break down the tiers for each, I'll do APAC and I will do NA, it'll kind of get more clear on how I view all these teams. But for now, I'm gonna do the bottom tier, and we're just gonna put this here. The Vancouver Titans. I will be surprised if they win more than a couple matches. Um, they, excuse me, their two best players last year were KSA and Shockwave, and they're not on the team anymore. Shredlock is great. He's okay. Everyone's okay. Everyone's FRD, WNR is good. I mean, former Atlanta player. I mean, it's just it's a very underwhelming team. And like Linkser, I'm a huge Linkser fan. I watch his stream all the time. I love him. Like I love Hitscan specialists, and he's Finland's gift to esports. And he's just so inconsistent. I hope that they are good because I like a lot of those guys on this team, and it's very much like a bad news bears type situation. And it goes all the way back to last season when they had to dump their Korean squad and team runaway. It was no longer Vancouver Titans basically, and it's been a nightmare ever since. I genuinely feel bad for this team because I used to root for Vancouver a little bit. Like I had a soft spot for them, and it's just been really hard since. They're definitely the worst team in NA. I mean, I don't know how anyone could put anyone else down there, in my opinion, but because there's just very little upside. All these other teams have upside. Atlanta Reign, Boston Uprising, Dallas Fuel, Outlaws, Spitfire, to Defiant, Justice, all have upside, but they're one of the few that just really doesn't to me. All right, we're gonna go to Paris Eternal. Okay, they are also not gonna have the best year. Poor Avala, who is their manager, was the only person left in the organization after the Dallas Fuel basically bought Coach Rush and their entire lineup that used to be the Element Mystic team that was very good. And then all the French players were basically released or dropped, or their contracts weren't extended, or they just were no longer on the team. Their contracts were up. So it's literally an entirely new squad, which is unfortunate because that Paris Eternal team was one of the most fun teams to watch last year. I mean, I fell in love with that team. I mean, Sparkle, Exy, Soon, Ben Best, FD God, Hanbin, No Smite, Fielder. It's just one of the best flex DPI. It's just so disappointing what happened to Paris Eternal. They have some of the best branding in the league. It's Paris, it's Paris. Like there's something fun about that team, like having a European squad, and they were half Korean, half French. It was this beautiful combination, and they were so good in the Genji meta. And it's so disappointing what happened to them. And I think Avala did a really good job putting together a team. I really do. Neptuno was plagued with visa issues, and he was on the Guangzhou Charge last year, but he never really got to play. Khan is someone who is coming up from contenders, and he is, he's got a lot of upside. So does Elivote. Onigod, Naga, Don, Suna, all good player. I mean, it's another thing. It's this is Vancouver Titans slightly better. If it's like they're the evolved Pokemon evolution. I think they're just slightly better. So that's why I gotta put them down here. I gotta put them, at 11th in NA. I mean, I just don't see them doing much. I just don't see it happening. It's sad. Gosh, that team was so. I have to stop talking about Paris because it makes me actually depressed because their team was awesome. Let's see. Who am I gonna put next? This is gonna be a really, really, really hot take, but I'm gonna put the Atlanta Reign. Hold on, let me see how I like this. Let me see how I like this. Let's go to Toronto. Let's go to Toronto real quick. I want to look at Toronto. We got Toronto. All right. Yeah, they are just underwhelming. I mean, Michelle is awesome. So is Sato. Sato's insane. They had a lot of players come over from the Philly Fusion. So they got Sato, Hisu, Where was Lastro before? I want to say Lastro was also, yeah, Lastro was on Valiant. That's right. So they picked him up. Thank God that some of the Valiant guys got jobs after they all got dropped. Their tank is also, or no, their tank. I'm sorry. Their coach is Philly's former coach. So there's some upside there. Philly's been a top team since the league was founded, and some of these guys are gonna do fine. I mean, this is a team that has a lot of upside too. Like Aztec, this guy he was sought after as a contenders player. People really were were high on him. And when that signing happened, it was like a big deal. Um, it's a weird team because you have two. It's all Korean, like all Korean, and then you have just two Western players. Teams like that do okay. I mean, San Francisco Shock's the same way. I mean, there's only two Western players on the Shock, and it's FD God and Super. So, and they are a championship caliber team. So that can look fishy to people because there's this weird notion that if you're not full Korean, but like mostly Korean, like there's going to be like some weird communication barriers and like it just I haven't ever seen that really be an issue in the league like that. Like it really like I if someone can show me an example, like I'll trust you and I'll look into it. But like it's it just doesn't happen. Like these teams they're professionals. Like they know how to communicate. They practice all the time. Like it's just not. It's just weird to make that assumption about a team and kind of write teams off for that reason. So I wanted to point that out because that's kind of a pet peeve of mine. All right. So yeah, they're just not. I just don't. I don't know what this team's gonna be if I'm honest. That's why I kind of want to put them. Trying to find it. I think it's gonna be at the low end here of this bottom. The Atlanta Reign. I think I'm gonna leave them there. Let's go to the Atlanta Reign. They yeah, their coaches are like the worst in the league. Uh, Coaching is something that, especially for casual, like I would call myself a casual viewer, but someone who really does keep in touch with this stuff. From what people say about coaching and what people say about the coaching of this team, it seems like an absolute mess. Uh, Erster, who was considered was supposed to be one of the best rookies last year, like barely saw playing time, and he had an incredible amount of talent. It's just a weird. They make weird decisions, and I don't trust their decisions, and I don't trust the Dustin Barrowman show dollars that he puts out. I mean, he's a former Atlanta Reign player, and he thinks that they're going to do crazy stuff this year. I just don't see it happening. Now, Masa's a great support player. Iris, yes, that's pronounced Iris. Uh, he's projected to have a lot of upside. People talk about him. People say he's going to be great. Okay, he's always up at the top of the ladder. So okay. People are really high on Pelican. Of course, Kai is KSP, who was on Valiant, who like carried Valiant last year for a little bit. So their DPS is not bad. Edison is fantastic. Their DPS is good. Gator and Hawk were an okay combo last year, but I do not trust their flexibility, like at all. Like they it just I just don't. In my opinion, you're only as good as your tank and support line. You're only as good as your tank and your support line. DPS players are a dime a dozen. You can get good DPS players off the street anywhere. Seriously. Like the amount of DPS players that are free agents right now that are absolute freaks of nature good is insane. The amount of flex support, or main tank players that are available are zero. Like they're like top tier, you're not picking up one of those guys out of nowhere. But you can for DPS. And I just think that this Atlanta Reign core that utterly failed last year, they were the stepping stone of the bottom tier. They never beat of the top half of NA. They never beat a single top half NA team, and they basically won every game against the bottom half teams, with the exception of, I think, Houston Outlaws beat them in a game, and I think they lost to, like, gosh, I want to say they lost like Vancouver or something too, like a weird freak loss. But yeah, they're just, I'm so low on them. Like, I just don't I don't know why I would ever trust them. Like, their coaching is awful. I think their back line is sketchy. I think it's sketchy. I think their tank line is left wanting. I just, yeah, I don't have any more to say about them. They're going to be a disappointment. So I like that. So the Atlanta Reign, Paris Eternal, Vancouver Titans. That's my bottom three. London Spitfire. Okay, so the London Spitfire are literally so British Hurricane. Their academy team, their contenders team. Basically, so London had a full Korean team. They got rid of them after last season. So this is a brand new org, basically. They got a new general manager. They got new coaches. They got an entirely new lineup. So they basically took their contenders team and they brought about, I think, 5 of those players up. There's a few that they that were too young, or there's one that was too young. I think one person that they just didn't bring up. They picked up Blase, who was on Houston Outlaws last year and was more like a flex DPS. Like, he would come in and play like really weird stuff. He's an insane Doomfist. His Doomfist is scary. I really like him a lot, and I think he'll be a nice addition to the team. They also got Shax, who some people would consider the best Western tracer. I definitely think he's the top 3, so I think that's legit. Great addition, because they did not have him a few months ago. That was part of the LA Valiant meltdown. Their support line, Rip and Kellex, I think they're okay. Again, you're only as good as your support line. You are only as good as your support line. Every season in the Overwatch League tells us that. Every playoffs tells you that. Molfig, Hadi, former contenders players, like, they're gonna be great. They did really well. All these guys, I think this team's gonna be solid, but I don't think they're gonna do a lot against the top teams. I just think they're gonna spend a lot of time growing. You know, a lot of these guys are rookies. Luckily they have 2 DPS that aren't, but again, DPS, like, you can only carry so hard for so many metas and games. You know, I just don't think that I just don't think that they have it. I'm not high on them, man. I would not pick London in a lot of matchups. So there, Defiant has a lot of upside. I got to be honest. I think Defiant has a lot. I think it might even be a mistake, actually. I think, yeah, they got to go here. And I would actually put Defiant, below Houston for sure. So now let's do this middle part. Boston. Let's talk about Boston, because I'm not sure if I want to put them above Outlaws or not. Okay, they decided to run it back with basically their same lineup. Now, they picked up a lot of people in the offseason. They picked up IM37. They picked up Stand 1, who played Orisa and played Hog and Reinhardt sometimes for Shanghai Dragons. Now, all the Shanghai Dragons and the fans in the world will tell you, every time Stand 1 was in, we were nervous. And we usually lost those maps. Now, it was not always his fault. It's not what I'm saying. But main tanks can have such an impact on the way your team works and moves that I think there's something not good about that. Like, I think there's something he's missing as a main tank. And maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was the team. Maybe there was something else about the team. You know, they just worked better with Fearless, you know. But is what it is. He's a main tank. Him and Fusions will split a lot of main tank stuff. Punk is a great tank as well. I really like Punk a lot. I think that the Boston Uprising were severely underrated last year. I think they just needed time to grow and develop. They got this new guy, Valentine, who, fun fact, is born on Valentine's Day. That's why his name is Valentine. Who has a lot of upside. People are excited about this player. I think Color Hex is very flexible, but they lost Scary Jerry. Jerry was an amazing player in personality, and he played a lot of their hit scan. He played the Ash, but there was a weird team. Like, people would play a lot of different stuff on this team. It kind of didn't make sense sometimes, but with how meta Tracer and Echo have been, I think Color Hex is going to do a really good job picking that stuff up, because he has in the past. He's been pretty good on them, and I think they're going to be like really, really, really important this year to have a Tracer, Ash, Echo, Widow. Like, if your team doesn't have one of those, you're completely in the dirt. Like, it's a nightmare. Myungbong is low-key like one of the best honest. He's so fun to watch. People love him. I love him a lot. He's a fun kid. He absolutely he dunked on the Outlaws last year in the first round of the playoffs. Like, dunked on them, dude. Made everyone humble. Faith, I don't know much about Faith, but from what I've seen, people are like really like lukewarm on Faith. So I don't know what to expect either, but Myungbong is insane. So I think their backline is pretty decent. I cannot put this team above the Outlaws. Looking at it now. Houston Outlaws have, and let's go to them now. Let's just get this over with, because I'm just biased as heck over here. Ooh, we're already at almost 30 minutes. Uh-oh, this is going to be a long one, actually. We might go over an hour. All right, Outlaws. Dante Cruz. Literally one of the best tracers, Sombras, Doomfist. Dude, this guy is so flexible and so good on so many roles. He is an absolute hard carry. He hard carried the Outlaws the entire season last year, when they basically had no support line. They basically had silver players as a support line. Their support line was awful last year. They died instantly in every team fight. They were made of wax paper. And Dante still managed to just drag the entire team out of the mud and win games somehow. But the Outlaws were a disappointment. And the entire organization has gotten a revamp, very much like a few others this year. They were sold sometime last year, but they finally have a general manager. They did not have an actual general manager that was an Overwatch guy. And it's Cool Matt, who you may know as Cool Matt 69, who is a former player on the Outlaws. He's been with the organization ever since. He wants to bring it to glory. Not former glory. The Outlaws have never had glory. They've never been a good team. As much as I love the Outlaws have never been good. They've never been top half. And this is the year where that changes, for sure. They added Junkbuck, who coached the Championship USA World Cup team last year. Junkbuck has been with the San Francisco Shock for both their championships. Harsha, who was a coach last year for Outlaws, it's pretty widely regarded he was not getting any resources, and that he's actually a really good coach. And I'm high on him, and him and Junkbuck are buddies. They know each other really well. So them being co-head coaches is not an issue for me at all. And Cool Matt is dedicated to winning. That guy wants to win games. He wants to bring the Outlaws to glory. And a lot of good changes were made. Hydration is now back on DPS. That dude should be a DPS. They forced into main tank last year, and it was terrible. And it's not his fault. That is not his fault at all. He did his best. In fact, he played pretty good sometimes. But damn, son, we retained Dante. It's one of the few players that was retained. They picked up Crimso and Juby. Crimso is widely considered the best Western flex support. He is highly doubted a lot because Dallas kind of imploded last year. But Crimso was basically what kept them from becoming the laughingstock of the league. Crimso is an absolute freak of nature, flex DPS. He's almost always number one NA on the ladder. He's insane. He's playing his best Overwatch ever. Let's see. Oh, Happy. Happy was considered one of the best hit scans about a year ago. Guangzhou Charge were a weird team last year. They had a lot of weird personnel issues and people not having visas, people being able to get it was a weird year, so I'm just calling it a wash for Happy, and I'm just glad he's going to be on the team. He's certainly more consistent than Linkser was. I like him a lot. The players on the team like him a lot. I think that is a really needed addition, like a very solid, consistent hit scan player. Piggy and Junggu, dude, I love these guys so much. They're a pair. They played for Talon Esports in Korea in Contenders. During the playoffs, when teams were scrimming, the 2 weeks before, the 2 weeks they had to quarantine, when teams were scrimming, Korean teams, and by the teams I mean like Philly Fusion, San Francisco Shock, all the teams that were in like that semifinals in Korea. A lot of players said that Talon Esports was the contenders team they were playing against, scrimming against sometimes. That was like the best one of all the teams they were scrimming. That they were like impressive. So and scrimbucks are scrimbucks. I know. But people are not denying how good this pair is together. Piggy has what's considered to be like one of the best Zaryas in Korean Contenders last year, with it being a rush meta right off the bat, or what it looks to be mostly rush. It's pretty map dependent, which is cool. It's going to be a really interesting and fun start this season. Junggu has a relatively wide hero pool. I hear his Winston is good, his Ryan is good, his Ball's fine. Like this seems like a really good tank line, really solid, much better than what the Outlaws had last year. There just was no cohesion in their tank line. This tank line, they're brothers. They've been playing together for years. Like they know each other's back of their hands better than they do. You know, like I'm just so confident in them. KSF, who came over from the LA Valiant, he is very underrated. KSF is going to do some freak things, depending on how much playing time he gets. Outlaws have a lot of DPS players. They have a lot of flexibility for they're very meta proof, because they have like Jake, their player coach, who is back, jersey unretired. He's so flexible. He's probably going to play, it says DPS. He's actually probably going to play flex support for them sometimes if there's a double flex support meta. Jake is also an insane Pharah. Just watch his stream. Like, he can play everything at a top tier. Like, he consistently finishes top 10 in every role in NA on the ladder. So, he can, and I know that's ladder play, that's not pro play, but he is an absolute cerebral. Like, the dude's forehead is just massive. Absolutely 10,000 IQ player. He's going to be a really good addition. Now, Juby, I skipped over Juby. He is the one little, like, this could be good, this could be not. Apparently I have watched some of his matches, but according to people who have really, really scouted him, he's a god tier Lucio. His Mercy's fine. I hear his Brig is fine. His Moira, who's bad at Moira? No one's bad at Moira, right? So I'm confident in him as well, but he just turned 18. He's played some contenders. He played the collegiate. So he's kind of an unknown quantity, but I have faith. I got like a tickle in my throat. Excuse me. I like this team a lot. I'm very high on this team. But you're only as good as your supports. And Juby and Crimzone really need to put it together. So I'm also cautious. That's why they're only here. Now, the Dallas Fuel should be here. I hate the Dallas Fuel. Do not like their organization. Do not like some of the personalities behind the scenes that like run stuff. Like genuinely, they genuinely like upset me like as people. There's been a lot of unfortunate stuff. Exy just had to leave the team a couple days ago. He had to retire. He's got neck and back issues. Dude, I love Exy so much. He's such a good hit scan. I got a soft spot in my heart for hit scans. And dude, it sucks, man. Because he was their best player. A lot of people would say Sparkle. No. Sparkle can play Genji and Doomfist. Sparkle's the most overrated player in Overwatch League. Absolutely. Without a doubt. Now, Doha can play the hit scan a little bit. He had to do it sometimes when Decay was on the team last year, but he couldn't carry like Decay could. Doha's good, but I don't think he's going to carry. Sparkle is the most overrated player in the league. He is a flex DPS. He's basically an OTP. I just don't understand why people are so high on him. It's beyond me. The Dallas Fuel are carrying 3 supports. They have the 2 flex supports, Fielder and Repel. Fielder, of course, of Paris Eternal fame. Amazing flex support. Incredible. Repel and Jexay are the worst support players in the league if they are together. I know that's a hot take, and it seems like I'm bitter. I am so bitter, actually. But if you watch Houston Outlaws matches last year, Jexay and Repel were just instantly dead. Team fight, instantly dead. What? It's like there could be like 2 shields around them, and somehow they would just Thanos flash out of existence, out of the server. Absolutely the most disappointing players I've ever put time into watching, ever. Could not feel lower about them as a duo. Like, I would take a random contenders duo over these two. Like, it's insane. Like, they're just not good. They're just not good. And the thing is, Dallas chooses to play Repel over Fielder, which is like so laughable to me. Like, I can't even, like, they have Coach Rush, who was the GM for Paris Eternal last year, and everyone loves Rush, but like, I don't understand what's happening, dude. I don't understand. They're so bad. They're the worst, dude. It's so bad. And then they picked up Fearless from Shanghai Dragons. Now, you'll say, like, that's a huge loss for Shanghai, or that's a huge gain for Dallas. Fearless is an amazing player, but it's the tanks that he can play at a top tier level are less than people think. Often he was getting swapped out for stand 1 last year, for different metas, because he just wasn't, or different maps I should say, because he just couldn't play those maps. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, he's a little overrated as well, I think. His Winston is god tier. His Rhine is okay. You know, I don't know what his Orisa is like. His ball is I think his ball is pretty good, actually. I mean, but the thing is, everyone's had a whole like off season to get really good at ball while ball was meta. So I don't think that's really a factor anymore. Like, a good ball is kind of like a dime a dozen now, you know? Hanbin is kind of a freak of nature off tank. He's super dope. I love him. He's definitely Hanbin and Fielder are their 2 best players on the team. So I have some confidence, but Fielder doesn't play, and it depends on how Hanbin and Fearless work together. But I'm not high on this team. But the thing is, they should be. If everything happens the way it should, Dallas should be decent still. But I just don't see it, and that's why I think I'm gonna put Dallas. I'm not gonna be such a homer and put Houston above Dallas, because I genuinely think Dallas right now is a better team. But I think over time, Houston will be better. But right now, if it was today and I had to choose like where teams were finishing, I think I would say Dallas over Houston. Because Houston hasn't proved anything yet, you know? You can make a lot of moves and prove a lot of things by doing that, but those don't convert to wins, you know? Like, they don't, at the end of the season, they don't ask how, they ask how many, and like, that's what people want to see. And Houston, until they actually have a winning season, cannot, like, the clout chasing is absurd sometimes from like Houston fans and Houston people. Our boys just need to put up, you know? Our boys need to put up. So, gosh, losing XC is so, I feel so bad for them, dude. They're going to sign another DPS player, they have said. They have said they're looking for a hit scan specialist, but if the hit scan specialist available, it's pretty bottom tier. A lot of players that like haven't played in a while or just playing Valorant now and stuff, like, it's not good. It's not good. Hit scan, if anyone's ever played hit scan, even in, you know, for fun in your games, repetition is everything. Like, just you can't make up for that if you haven't been playing for 6 months. So I'm low on them, but there it is. That's how I feel. I think that's how it's got to be. Washington Justice, this team. All right. They have Decay, who's an absolute freak of nature, MVP caliber candidate, absolutely. Bebe and Closer, I think they're gonna be okay. Like, I don't know, like their support line's okay. They could be good. They could be just okay. They have this new kid, Assassin, who is supposedly like the second coming. Like, he's gonna be really good. I know, like, Custa, the Overwatch League analyst, is really high on him. Could be. People are saying a lot of people have him as like a Rookie of the Year candidate. But like, if he plays, like, look at the rest of your DPS, bro. Scary Jerry is now on Washington. By the way, they're full Korean now officially. Like, I think they were last year by the end of the year, but they started off not full Korean. So you have Tuba, who is a really good Sombra and has some like weird, like some of those like weird characters he's really good at. And then you have Decay, who can pick up like whatever he wants and play. His Zarya is god tier. His Widow is like legendary. So they're pretty good. Jerry is an Ashe god. He's just fun to watch. He's a good kid. I think Fury and Rhea is sort of, I would say, pretty mediocre in the league, and I'd say Fury has really good days. This team has a lot of upside because Decay can just decide he wants to carry the team at any point, but I don't think that they have the ability to win the league. I just don't. Mag is okay. Like, Mag's gonna be solid. This team has like this team's floor, I think, is a lot higher than other teams' bottoms, if you know what I mean. Which is why I have them up so high, and also because like at any point Decay can just decide that he wants to hold an entire team hostage and win the game. Like, go back to last year and watch the Battle of Texas, where Houston was playing really well. And Decay was just like, no. It was insane. Like, Decay is such a freak, dude. He's so good, so fun to watch. So that's it. So that's my NA. That's my NA. I'm really happy with this. I think these teams are a lot closer together than it shows. Like, I would almost put all these teams like on the same like level, because you just don't know. And I think Florida and Glads are just so good. I think Gladiators are better than Florida a little bit, on paper at least right now. But we'll see. All right, let's do APAC. APAC's going to be very easy and very quick. Shanghai Dragons. Let's go to their page. There it is. They lose Fearless. That's okay. They signed Molly, Molly's got a 2-way contract, I believe. Molly is a flex support, used to play for Chengdu. Very good. It's their only Chinese player. And they are 2-way because their contenders team is like mostly Chinese team, I believe. I would have to look at that, but I believe it is. Isayaki is one of the best flex supports in the league. The most underrated flex support, certainly. Void was number 2 in MVP voting last year, behind Fleta, who was the MVP. Lip was considered the second best hit scan last year, pretty widely regarded as that. Lip also has an insane Sombra. A hit scan with a dirty Sombra in his back pocket. Like, the dude's an absolute freak of nature. And then you have DM. DM is on your bench. DM would be the best player on most teams he would go to, and he's on the bench. Same with Erster, who should have played all year last year for the Atlanta Reign, and they are just a bottom tier organization for letting him sit on the bench. Like, I'm sorry, dude. Like, they're absolute trash. Like, I'm sorry to like be so harsh like that, but like, dude, if you leave players like Urster on the bench, it's absolute garbage. Like, it's just the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. Fate, they got Fate from Florida, and Fate had an incredibly solid year. He's a phenomenal Reinhardt. He's got a great Winston. He's a very, very solid main tank. He is now their only main tank, and Void is their only off tank. So while they're both freaks of nature and both have a lot of flexibility, I do wonder about Fate. Like, Coach Moon loves Fate, and Fate loves Coach Moon, and they've worked together before. So this could be really good. I also think it's going to benefit the Shanghai Dragons to have the same tanks in the lineup the entire year. I think that's only going to... I think last year, you'd see things get squirrely for them when there were so many swaps, and they finally settled down. This team is... If they don't win the Overwatch League, it will be a disappointment. Not for me as a fan, in terms of like how you build a team. This is one of the most perfect teams I've ever seen in my life. LeahyGaga's is an incredible main support. Lucio God, his Mercy is nasty too. And Isayaki is just insane on the Anabap Zen. Like, just insane. So I can't listen to anyone say anything bad about Shanghai. Like, it's just you sound stupid. Go away. All right. And then we got a tier break. Because no one in the East, or in the APAC, I should say, can even come anywhere near. If the Shanghai Dragons lose a game to any of these teams below, it will be weird. It'll just be an off day. It'll just be a weird off day. Now, here's how I'm going to order this. I'm just going to go, oops. I'm going to go ahead and, we need a tier break here. And we need yep. Okay. I just want to organize that a little bit for myself. All right, Guangzhou. These are not set in stone. I just wanted to move things around a little bit. All right, Guangzhou. What happened? They lose Happy. They lose Nero. They lose Shu. They lose they lose Neptuno. They lose a lot of people. They lost a lot of people, okay? I can't... I don't know. I don't understand some of these moves. Like, Choi Se-won to me is like an unknown quantity. I'm not big on him. Kaylee is apparently really good guy coming out of China. Eileen is really good. Eileen was on the team last year. He's great. Krong was a rookie last year. He was up for Rookie of the Year. He's an incredible off tank. He was a Sigma god. But between Jihoon, Rio, and Krong, it's an okay tank line. Kariv is underrated. He's a really good flex support. He was on Toronto last year. He kept them in a lot of games that they shouldn't have been in. The dude Zenyatta is absolutely nasty, dude. Mandu, don't know a ton about him, but like I don't know how he's an upgrade at all. And from what I hear, he isn't. But this team, like the bones of this team, are still really good, Like they lose Shu, the flex support, but they pick up Kariv. I think that's a 1-for-1 trade, They lose Nero, but they lose Happy, but they pick up Mike Haley, who plays a lot of hit scan. I believe he plays a lot of hit scan stuff. So it's a lot of upside. Like there's a lot of upside, but I don't know. Like so, it's just scary. It's just scary. I don't know about them. I don't trust them. I can't put them up here. Last year, they were absolutely the second best team in APAC. Like without a doubt. I know Seoul went to the grand finals, but that was lucky. That was all that was. That was them. That was Seoul getting a good meta and lucking out because the Seoul still doesn't even have a main tank player. Gesture is playing main tank, but he's not playing main tank. He's playing off tank main tank, and it's not good. And their team is just going to be a disappointment again for the poor folks in Seoul. So Guangzhou are going. They're going down. I'm going to put them. They're still going to be in the middle. They could go up. They could go down. They have upside and downside. Hangzhou Spark. Hangzhou quietly is just like good all the time, except they'll just go like they'll get 3-0'd like twice in a weekend, and then they'll 3-0 like Shanghai the next week. And it's like, where is this? What was this? They have Gushui, who's like a Winston god. A Winston god. He's amazing. They have Architect on DPS. Bernard, Somin Su, the Zarya Reaper god. IDK on support, who I'm high on, but a lot of people are not. I don't know why people are not. By the way, they have like basically a full Chinese team and a full Korean team on their roster. If you look at this, they have the full 12 guys. Apparently, they comm in English, which is interesting to me because they have such a mixed roster. I trust the coaching to make good decisions here because Hangzhou always ends up okay. And I think they have too many amazing pieces to be bad. So I hope this isn't biased, but that's why I like them at number 2. I really like them at number 2, actually. Sorry, I just wanted to move that. Guangzhou definitely is not better than Fusion. Let's talk about Fusion right now. Let's talk about Philly. Philly is an absolute nightmare. Okay, so Philly still has Carpe, who on any given day can be the MVP of the league. Well, here's the thing. They're having tons of visa issues right now. So Toby and Hotba had to join the team because Funny Astro and Poco are dealing with visa crap. So, and as good, Funny Astro is definitely top 5 main support in the world for sure. I mean, without a doubt. I mean, no one would argue against that. Poco is a phenomenal off tank, which is unfortunate that he's not going to be playing. EQO, I believe, is also having visa issues, and he played like a god Genji during the Genji meta. He's very underrated. He's an incredible player. Shockwave is also having issues. He played like Ashe and Hitscan for Vancouver last year. He was like their shining star. Oh man, I hope they can get him over there, dude, because he's so good. He's an absolute freak. Okay. And then they picked up Rascal, who like Rascal is just insane. Just insane. An absolute freak on anything he picks up. He revolutionized the way teams play Echo and Baptiste. Like he is so adaptable. If Overwatch was getting a new hero in the next month, I would put so much stock into Fusion because Rascal can pick up new heroes so much better than everyone else in the world that it's kind of insane. He's an absolute freak of nature and just one of God's gifts to Overwatch. I love Rascal so much. When he almost didn't have a team this year, I would have cried. Now, Mono and Hotba have played together on NYXL. Those NYXL teams crashed and burned. They choked. They didn't do great. Hotba and Toby have also not been playing Overwatch, according to some sources that I've heard. So they might be a little rusty. Now, if the visa issues work out, that's what I'm basing this off of. If the visa issues work out, Philly Fusion would be here. If only half of them work out, they'd be around here. But right now, I gotta leave them here. Because they could kind of, like, you don't know what the players they picked up are going to do. You know, you don't know. I'm very sad. Very sad about Philly. Very sad. Chengdu, the Chengdu zone. They have a main tank now. They have Gaga. They picked up Gaga, a player who he called me up. He said, "Hey, can I use the name Gaga?" And I was like, I mean, I guess. I don't think I'm ever going to go pro, but like, I guess you can use the name Gaga. I'm kind of upset about it. I should have charged him for it, honestly. But Gaga. Their full Chinese team, like last year. Late Young, this guy is a god tier Zarya. He's going to play a lot. I think right away you're going to have Late Young and Gaga playing because you're going to have that Rush, that Ryan Zarya comp. I think they can flex pretty well. They have a huge team. 4 supports is a little much, but Farway 87 and Yveltal are really good. That's who I would play, but then like Nisha and Monk like are also highly regarded as well as Chinese players. Ameng, who played main tank for them last year, was like the ball god and was like the leader of the Chengdu zone. He's not going to play a lot this year. He's going to play a few maps. He's going to play when ball is needed. I wonder if he's going to expand his hero pool a little bit and maybe get good at some of the stuff that Gaga doesn't play. So I'm pretty high on Chengdu. Chengdu was scary last year because at any given moment they could just grab a team and just bring them down into the Chengdu zone for a weekend. I'm high on them. I think their DPS, I'm left wanting. But then again, I think that their supports and tanks are really solid, and in APAC, that's so important. The DPS duel, I think, isn't as important, which may sound ignorant, but that's just how I feel about it. I don't know. I'm pretty high in Chengdu, like a lot of people are. I think there's a lot of Chengdu bucks going around, but I don't think they are better than the Spark. Let's see. Seoul. I'm literally scratching my head because the only addition they made is they brought up 2U, another off tank. They lost Toby and Slime. Oh, well, Toby was a while ago, but they lost Slime, who's now on Florida Mayhem. They lost Michelle. They lost Bedosin. Oh, Bedosin retired. It just... I don't know what to think. Creative and Animo are not the worst backline in the world, but they have 3 DPS players. They have Prophet, who's one of the best Tracer, probably, in the world. And then Sebeobi, who only plays Tracer. Like, pretty much. He can play Mei, too, I believe. But Prophet has a better Mei. Like, I don't understand. This team is so frustrating because they have sick branding and they have sick players as far as, like, personalities. But I don't know what the hell they're doing. Like, why didn't they do more in the offseason? Like, they have money. What's happening? So, I don't know. This team last year showed that it could win when they wanted to. Playoff Prophet is a thing. He's maybe the best player in the world on any given day. Fitz is a great hit scan player and also has an insane Sombra. Very much like Fitz and Lip are like kind of the same player to me. They look like disappointment to me. And then New York XL, who was a disappointment last year, has done nothing in recent time. They've had a lot of... I mean, they dropped their entire team except for Jonak, the former MVP, who... I'm just going to say it. I think he's washed. I think Jonak's washed. I don't think we're getting a Zenyatta meta anytime soon. And I don't even think he's the best Zenyatta anymore. Really don't. They have Yekpung and Bianca as their tank line. which I think is average on a good day. Their support line Friday, I guess the thing about having Jonak on a team is, unless you're putting resources into him and using him as a huge part of the offense, you're not going to squeeze everything that you can out of your team. But if you're doing that, you're not giving your DPS enough to really excel. I just don't have any faith in this team. I think that the staff did like a good job putting together like a squad. Like, this team doesn't look bad. Like, on paper, like their DPS is really flexible. But this is a really unknown quantity. Like, this team could be good to decent, or decent to good, or they could just be shite. Like, yeah, man. I'm not high on them. So, and then the LA Valiant, like, we don't even need to talk about them at all. The LA Valiant dropped their entire roster, was purchased by a Chinese organization, or is now being run by a Chinese esports organization who picked up 7 players and is paying them the league minimum. And these were all the cheapest possible players they could pick up, because they didn't pay for any buyouts from players who are already signed to contenders teams. So they didn't pay for any talent. If they win a match this year, it will be a shock. It will be a San Francisco shock if they win a single match this year. Absolutely the worst team in the league. Like, actually embarrassing. In the organization, the owner, everyone involved that was involved in that decision should feel like a disgrace and like a piece of shit. And they're the worst organization in esports for sure, to me, that I'm familiar with. That probably isn't the truth, but for me, as far as like my esports journey and like what information I've gathered, is the scummiest shit I've ever seen in my life. Like, just, I feel so bad for so many players who had opportunities that were coming to the league, and now they don't have jobs, and only like the top tier players got jobs. Thank goodness some people did, but it's just unfortunate. It's bad. It's no good. But these are my power rankings. This is it. And then I'm also going to do a video on my picks for the weekend, so look for that as well. A lot of hot takes from me, a lot of things I'm probably ignorant to. Please take this with a grain of salt. As much as I follow this stuff and keep up with everything, definitely probably missing things. I'm definitely misremembering some stuff, I bet. So this is the best I could come up with right now. I guarantee you this isn't perfect. I can almost guarantee. But yeah, glad you watched if you did. And please let me know how I did. And tell me how bad this video is, because I think the hot take police are going to come for me. But see you later.